Hello, my name is James Holt, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. About 30 years ago, I served a mission for my church in the Scotland-Edinburgh mission, so I lived in Scotland for 2 years.
My name is Gideon Holt. I currently go by Elder Holt because I'm also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I'm currently serving as a missionary in the sort of Cardiff and the lower part of the valleys in South Wales.
Thank you both. Actually, just on that, isn't one of the Holt clan haven't they served a mission somewhere a bit more exotic?
Yes, so I served in Scotland. Gideon was supposed to serve in Moscow, but because of COVID, that's why it's in South Wales. But my eldest daughter, Gideon's elder sister, served in Barbados. So,
oh wow,
yeah, we got the raw end of the deal, didn't we? Good.
Well, yeah. It could have been worse if you're actually in Russia at the moment. That'd probably be a bit more problematic. And I think that brings different challenges as well. When we were speaking to, was it Luke at the church?
Yes.
He obviously served in Russia without being able to speak Russian. So, while having to learn Russian for that. Yeah, so obviously that's a whole different challenge. To ask you first, James, in the kind of widest sense of the word, what is missionary work?
So within the church, it is sharing the gospel. So we have the good news of Jesus Christ, that he was born, that he lived, that he died, that he was resurrected. And so we have a responsibility, and one of our scriptures says, it becometh every person who's been warned to warn his neighbor. And so we have received the truth, and we understand our Savior Jesus Christ. So missionary work is about sharing that. And so although Gideon is a full-time missionary and he's serving for 2 years, as a member of the church, I have a responsibility as well to talk to people about the gospel of Jesus Christ and to share my beliefs as well with different people. So although Gideon is a full-time missionary, every member also has a responsibility to share their beliefs. Mainly it's with people outside of the church, but a lot of the work that I do now, but also some of the work that Gideon will do, is focused on helping those people who are in the church strengthen their testimonies and strengthen their understanding of their Savior as well.
Amazing, great. And for you, Elder Holt, what was it that inspired you to kind of take up this type of work?
I think it's obviously, as my father said, something that we've been asked to do. It's a responsibility that both God would like us to do, but equally, when I was baptized, I believe that I made a promise with God that I would stand as his witness and that I would share this with those around me and try to help people. Equally, I see every single day how much it helps people, how much it blesses people, how much people's lives improve as they learn and apply those principles. And I want everyone to experience that same joy.
On the back of that, those principles, as you say, they kind of enrich people's lives, and you're seeing kind of tangible results to the impact that you make it. Say if you're meeting someone for the first time, what message is it that you're actually trying to give? Say if it's in a brief period of time, you've just kind of got chatting to them, how is it you introduce yourself and what you're about, really?
Yeah, I think the most common way that I introduce myself is I'm a volunteer. I've given up this time for what I feel is a good reason, and I help people in any way that I can. We do a great deal of service, just physical service, manual labor and things for old people or anyone who needs it. But the way that I've seen that helps people in the most lasting way is this gospel of Jesus Christ, his restored gospel, and the fact that we can have that deeper understanding through the Holy Spirit, through scripture, through living prophets today.
Yeah, thank you very much. One of my students that I was speaking to about this actually, Edith, kind of questioned on a day-to-day, because when you're reading it in the books, it's a little bit abstract. It's kind of, we help people and so on. What she wanted to know is day-to-day, what is actually, how far, so you're on a 2-year mission, how far in a year?
About 21 months.
21 months. Oh, so coming towards the end. What is it that you've been doing kind of over the long term in that, and kind of on a day-to-day basis as well?
Yeah, on a day-to-day basis, there's a great deal, I think, more than anyone would expect, of developing your own personal relationship with God. There's a lot of study, a lot of prayer, and then working externally. We have opportunities to help the congregation in the activities that they have. We have opportunities to serve people, as I said. We have lots of opportunities to visit people in their homes and to teach them. And we also try to share this message, which involves speaking to people in public, and what people know as far as like knocking on people's doors and saying, hello, can we share a message? Yeah.
You're sharing a nicer message for me. When I was knocking door to door, I was trying to sell magazine subscriptions. So it's it's a lot nicer than that. And to ask you another question as well, James, is the Great Commission important to you? Is that something that we're looking at as part of the GCSE spec?
Yes, so obviously when Jesus was resurrected, he gave that Great Commission to his disciples, didn't it, to go out and teach all nations. And that's exactly what Gideon's doing now. It's that responsibility. So just as Gideon's a missionary in South Wales, there's missionaries all over the world. And so we feel that this is a direct kind of response to that commission to go and teach all nations, to baptize them. And sometimes I think, I'm answering a question you haven't asked, but sometimes people will query, well, we understand missionaries going to help in areas that need help, but why Wales, why Scotland, why England? And because essentially we don't need that. Well, actually, our view is that everybody needs that, and Jesus didn't say go out and share the gospel with just these countries. The gospel is supposed to be shared with everybody. And so at the heart of everything that we do, I think, is that invitation. We may not talk about it very much, actually, but it is the initial impetus and the initial kind of thing as to why we do what we do.
Amazing answer. I wanted to ask, is there a bit of a difficulty for you in terms of roles you've had in the past, being a teacher and somewhat, with this idea of you've got this mission and you said it impacts not just when you're doing missionary work, but after that event, that you want to spread the word from the gospel, but also you have to have that independent, impartial role?
Yes, so obviously I taught RE in schools for 13, 14 years, and I've been at the university training teachers now for 13 or 14 years as well. And in all of that, I say that RE teachers need to maintain a positive neutrality. And so when I teach, for example, about Islam, I will say Muslims believe this, Muslims do this. But when I teach about Christianity as well, I will say Christians do this. So I will keep my own views, if you like, because my job is private, and because my job isn't to proselytize in the classroom. However, very early on in my career, just before I was doing the PGCE, I was interviewed, and basically because they saw my mission was on my CV, they were very worried and asked me a question about essentially how my faith would affect me and would I be required to proselytize. And I kind of said, well, no, it's completely separate. I don't think it is completely separate, and I recognize it's a worry. But I think the way that I live my life, in the way that I speak to people, in the way that I teach, kind of reflects my discipleship of Jesus. So I don't actually teach it, and I am very conscious that I don't share my own beliefs, but at the same time, it affects the way that I believe. And I had some students a couple of years ago who were going to visit one of my churches as part of the course. And they were really excited to come because what they said was, we know how you live, but we have no idea what you believe. And it is a tension, both for me and for others, but it's one that I think I've navigated quite well over the years, in kind of living as a disciple, but recognizing there is a professional neutrality that I need to have within the classroom as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And until recent weeks, I didn't even know kind of your specific faith until it kind of we were going that direction with kind of some of the stuff we were talking about at university. To jump back to a question for you, Gideon, how did it feel leaving friends and family behind? Do you feel you have, or is it quite close so that you can get back, or is there limits on how often you can see family and so on?
Yeah, I suppose, first describe the degree of separation that I have. I speak to my family once a week. There's not really a great deal of opportunity to see anyone or to return home for any period of time. It makes a lot more sense when you're in a foreign country than when you're 2 hours down the road.
Yeah.
But I think it's been an excellent opportunity to exercise that independence and to, I suppose, develop that personal relationship with God in isolation of a family. It is difficult in many cases to not see your family.
Yeah.
But I've definitely felt as though I have, I suppose, had God's help as I've tried to do what I believe God would have me do.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so you're 21 months in of roughly, it'll be 24 months that you're there. So you're coming to the final stages, the last few months of that at the moment. How do you feel kind of about that you're heading towards the end? Are you excited or are you nervous? Because it's going to be such a transition, obviously, in a few months. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's actually very, very scary. There's a great deal of structure. You kind of know exactly what you're supposed to be doing at all times of the day. You're trying to be useful. And then you go home and there isn't a specific directive for a purpose to all the activities that you're supposed to be trying to do. It's a scary idea to have to work out exactly what you want to achieve with each day, each week, with your life. In that sense, it is scary to have to make decisions, but I feel prepared more so than I was before. I was equally scared to have to make those decisions before, and I feel like I've gained skills and knowledge and experience that will help me in my life.
Perfect. So have you got an idea of what you want to do and what you want to be doing in 4 months' time, or is that still kind of unraveling?
I have actually already applied for a job that hopefully will take me a little bit as I apply for university and things. So there's things unraveling and it progresses.
Yeah, sounds really exciting. What have you found then in the last 21 months has been your biggest challenge, your biggest struggle?
I think for me, looking to develop those relationships with people around me, because that's most especially evident in the fact that we always travel around in pairs. We live together, we cook together, we clean together, we work together, even on our 1 day a week where we go out and do say some sightseeing, we're always together. And it's a struggle for someone who, at least me personally in my life, I've always enjoyed being alone. Developing those relationships, especially with people from such different cultures and diverse backgrounds, aside from our religious affiliation, like say political beliefs or just how they were raised, being able to get along with people is sometimes quite a struggle.
I can only admire that. Sometimes I've been on holiday for 5-6 days with some of my best friends, and at the end of it, I'm thinking, I'm never going to speak to this person again in my life. So 2 years side by side with someone must be really, really difficult, especially if you've got those areas where you disagree. Yeah, thank you. That's a really good answer.
That person does
That's-
change periodically, by the way. So he'll probably be with people for about 1 or 2 months, and then it will
okay.
change as well. So it's not the same
Ah.
person for 2 years. I think that would be far too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Could I ask you the same question, James? What was your biggest challenge or struggle when you were doing the work?
I don't know really, because I enjoyed it so much. Even kind of the rejection and the funny stories, and Gideon grew up hearing my funny stories. None of really my spiritual stories, which maybe was remiss of me. But when I went on my mission, I was very different to Gideon. I'd only been a member of the church a couple of years, and I was very, very shy. And so the expectation that I was supposed to initiate conversations, that I was supposed to teach, that I was supposed to speak, as much as I love teaching, prior to my mission, I was just very, we've had this discussion with my wife, I'm probably more insecure than I am shy. And so it was kind of the insecurity of having to go outside of your comfort zone. It's something I knew I wanted to do, something that I needed to do, but it was a challenge to talk, because the activities, when I was actually doing them, were wonderful and lovely, and most of the people that I lived with were delightful. There were a couple who were entertaining, and when we finished, it was it was nice to finish our time together. But I think probably just the worry about whether I was able to do it and whether I could do all the things I needed to was my biggest issue.
Has that stepping out of your comfort zone and, speaking to people and sharing conversations and things like that, did that lead into you becoming a teacher? Do you think that was part of the process?
It certainly helped, but I've wanted to be a teacher since I was about 8 years old. I'm one of those people that always wanted to be a teacher. So I think I would have had to develop certain skills had I just gone to university and become a teacher. It perhaps would have been a slower process, but it certainly hasn't harmed that, and the ability to talk to people and connect with people certainly started when I was on my mission. So it's helped, but I've always wanted to do that. So it kind of didn't change my career path at all.
Okay, and it might link into your last answer, but from the mission, what have you, maybe yours might be more kind of looking back, obviously with being 30 years ago, what did you find most rewarding about the work?
Certainly some of the relationships and friendships that I made, but I think most of all, it set me up for life. So as I mentioned, I've been a member of the church a couple of years. And and Gideon mentioned before about developing your own spirituality and studying and praying. And I think as I look back over the last 30 years, that's certainly been the case, that my knowledge, my understanding, my relationship with God kind of was solidified within those 2 years, so that it provided kind of the basis for everything else that I've done. So there's lots of things within our home in the way that we live the gospel, and those decisions were made while I was on my mission and when I came home and met my wife, and those kind of things were influenced, but also in terms of, because I've done a lot of church service, so I've been a bishop, which is like a local priest, and that has certainly, I wouldn't have been able to do that, I don't think, without the grounding that I had on my mission. So I look back, and it wasn't the best 2 years of my life, which sometimes we're talked about, because that would be slightly insulting to my wife and children if from the ages of 18 and 19 I was having the best 2 years. It was the best 2 years of my life up to that point, but it provided the basis for me to able to, I think, enjoy and really reflect on the rest of my life since that point.
Amazing. Yeah, really insightful answer. To you, Elder Holt, what have you found the most rewarding so far? I know you're currently in the situation, so it might be developing, but what so far have you found rewarding?
I think externally, the opportunity to see people, I suppose, grow in that knowledge and that understanding. But as my father said, internally, I think I've seen so much growth for myself. I think especially that largest struggle is especially linked to what I've seen the largest benefit in is my capacity to love people in spite of differences,
Yeah.
to be able to, I suppose, just focus on the good in people and seek to learn from them. And I think I can see how much that will help me in later life to, first of all, get on with people, but second of all, to see how I can continue to grow as a person from the examples of people around me, even though everyone in this world is imperfect.
Yeah. And you mentioned about those differences that you can obviously have with other people. Do you ever face hostility or anything like that?
Yeah. There are a lot of people who don't like the Mormons, and that's okay, because I understand that it's in most cases based on what they don't know rather than what they do know.
Yeah, I think when we visited the church, one of the first things that James was keen to say was that things like polygamy and so on had not been practiced for about 130 years. So obviously there's a huge amount of misconceptions about it, and I guess that's why your work on the mission is kind of so important, because what you're doing is spreading the values as you were told to do at the Pentecost, so kind of delivering those core kind of things. What would you say to, so I'm at a school of faith, so there's young people there that are, you know, quite religious. If one of them were thinking about, you know, serving, about doing some missionary work, what would you advise them to do from there?
I think it's it can only be beneficial to people to immerse themselves in different cultures, to meet so many new people. I think I'm biased in the fact that I'm doing this for what I believe is the one true God. So I would say serve a mission absolutely for the church that I represent, because so many of the benefits that I feel like I've seen, feel like I've seen from God.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And to ask you a final question, James, how important is missionary work in terms of church growth?
Yeah, it's strange. So if I look at my local church as a minister, there's two ways that the church grows in terms of numbers. And one is through family. So, for example, my wife and I have added 4 to the numbers because we had 4 children. So that's a way for the church to grow. And that's a very positive way, because Gideon and his sisters are far better at their ages than I was. And so they are integral to church growth. But the other way is through missionary work. And so when we look at the way the church has grown, it's mainly grown through missionary work. And so when I look at my home ward or parish, if you like, there are people in there who wouldn't be there without that missionary work. I mean, I'm one of them. I have missionaries, and so that had an impact on on the growth of the church, but also on so many other people as well. So I don't think the church can grow really without that missionary work. It is at the heart of everything that we do.
Amazing, perfect answer. That's all the questions from my end. Is anything else either you would like to add?
I don't know. I mean, it's amazing. It's strange to say. I mean, we've talked about kind of the difficulty of Gideon leaving for him, but I actually think, thinking back to my mission, I didn't quite realize how difficult it was for my family. So me leaving and thinking, I just was so excited and was just kind of caught up in my work. Whereas having had 2 children go and do it, I think it's much harder on the family who are left behind, because your children are leaving and for both of them, they were leaving home for the first time. And so
Yeah.
being able to only talk to them by Zoom or by Skype once a week is great, but it's not enough. And I've not seen Gideon in person for 21 months. So it is difficult, not just for him, but also for the family that are left behind as well.
Are you feeling guilty now, Gideon?
Not all.
No,
Not all.
because we encourage them to go as well. That's the thing. We're very proud and we wanted him to go. So
yeah,
it's kind of those things.
Of course. Thank you both so much for giving up time on your Saturday nights. I really, really appreciate it. And I think it's really going to help the students kind of with accessing this kind of information. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
if there's one thing that I could add, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel as though I've spoken a lot about helping people in their lives, like in the immediate term. And I think that's a habit from speaking to people, because people aren't really concerned about what's going to happen in 1,000 years. They're interested in the here and now. But I think a massive reason that I neglected to mention for why I'm here and why I do what I do every single day is because as you kind of touched on with that Great Commission, is that I believe that this is about the eternal welfare of people's souls, and that salvation comes through Jesus Christ, but also through his gospel, through baptism. And that is why I'm here. It's not just so people can be happy right now, it's so that people can be in heaven after this life.
Yeah, thank you very much for such a thoughtful answer. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You.
Thank you.